Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to Getting Started with Cambridge webinar series. This is our third day. My name's Andrea, and I'm saying hello to you from Barcelona in Spain. And my colleague Arzu is in the chat, and she's saying hello from Amsterdam today. So do say in the chat where you're saying hello from. It'd be great to see which cities and you're saying hello from today. So and also if you can just say that in the chat as well, so I know that you can all hear me. Okay. Great. Hi, Donatella from Italy, Bolsena. Lovely to see you today. Great. So, as I said, let's welcome you all to this third day, focusing on primary and our young learners. Hello, Irina. So the overview of today's webinar, this afternoon's webinar, we're going to begin by looking at what Cambridge support. Thank you, Donatella, so you can hear me well. Great, thanks for that. We're going to look first at all the Cambridge support that's out there, focused specifically on young learners. And then we're going to be looking at the specific primary course, Guess What? So just a quick reminder, you will receive your certificates for attending the session in the follow-up email that we'll send out once the series of webinars of the event has finally finished. And please, as you're doing already, please interact with us in the chat and the Q&A. Hello, Leokadia. Apologies from Lithuania if I said your name wrong. Please interact in the chat. I will be asking for your input as well. So there'll be some questions that I'll ask you to reflect on your own classes. So let's get started. Cambridge support for young learners. So we know that there's lots to do at the start of the school year. We have new classes, new students with needs and interests, and we're thinking about many things like establishing a positive classroom environment, which is really important, setting up new routines and establishing our classroom rules, also sharing learning goals with students and planning how we will help them get there. And of course, like many of you here today, you're also trying to get to know the new course, Guess What, and its components and plan for the days and weeks ahead. Well, the good news is that of course, Cambridge is here to support you and help you get started. So let's get started. Hi, Carmen from Norway. Great to see you here today. So thinking about our children, the children need to feel that we care about their personal lives and aspirations. They need to have those opportunities to have their efforts recognized and to be successful and to move forward. This idea of an aspiration tree, this is from Carol Reed's 101 Tips for Teaching Primary Children, is a great way to start the school year. So you could ask the children to write one thing that they'd like to achieve in English on a piece of paper or card in the shape of a leaf, and then you could ask them to add it to a tree that you could put on the classroom wall. And it's a great way to get children motivated, to stay motivated, and to build positive relationships in the classroom. We all know that our world is changing extremely fast, and we need to prepare our students with the skills and experiences that go beyond learning an additional language. So at Cambridge, we understand that engaging and collaborative nature of the language classroom is a perfect place to develop and embed these key qualities. So we've been working with educators to understand how these skills, the Cambridge Life competencies, can integrate seamlessly into your English language classes and your English language program. And we can start right at the beginning of the journey. I think also my colleague Arzu will put into the, thank you Arzu, you can, this is the link directly to the Cambridge Life Competencies Framework. So we also took each one of these competencies and thought about how we could create opportunities to develop them in our day-to-day classroom routines. So here on the screen, you can see one that's focusing on learning to learn, simple activity idea that you can incorporate into your classes, evaluating their learning and progress and encouraging them to immediately start thinking and reflecting and evaluating on their own learning. Here you've got some other ideas from social responsibilities, creative thinking, and critical thinking. And these you can all download from the link that Arju shared. Also, we have these Classroom Warmers activity booklet that has different exercises, each goes from primary all the way up to upper secondary, which also has got some nice ideas that you'd maybe like to look at to start as warmers in the class. So learning goals at the start of the journey. So even our young learners, they need to understand why we're doing something. Yeah? Although the course, the way we set and share and set goals, create opportunities for success and monitor and measure progress. So it's really important that we can invite our students into the learning journey right from the beginning. It's important that we share objectives. It could be something just simply writing the objectives on the board of the lesson. And as we go through the lesson, achieving each one of those objectives, we could point back to those written on the board and just tick them off. So it's important that we share those objectives with our learners to really help them better understand what we're doing. Yeah. So when learners know the why behind lesson, it gives them a sense of purpose and clearer sense of direction. It enhances engagement. And when students have a goal to work towards, it also can help keep them focused, and they're more likely to actively participate and stay motivated. It also makes learning much more effective. Objectives set the framework for lessons and encourages our learners to really take ownership of learning, which in time then leads to deeper understanding. So as I mentioned, it could be something just as simple as at the beginning of the lesson, writing the different objectives, the different aims, what you're going to carry out in the class. And as each one is achieved, we can go back, point them to them and just tick them off. We can also, of course, encourage reflection, as we mentioned, on learning goals and outcomes. Reflection helps students understand their strengths, identify areas for understanding, identify areas for improvement, and set achievable goals. So also, again, it promotes that deeper understanding of their learning journey. It could be something as simple as just ticking can-do statements, or as on the screen, they have the can-do statements. If you don't want to, for the very little ones, instead of asking them to tick, maybe you could ask them to colour in the leaves green if they really feel that they can do that, or maybe yellow if they feel that they need to revisit that point. Simple technique, which I'm sure many of you already do, could be asking to students to give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down when we ask them about a task or an activity, or ask them to choose from different emojis, yeah, or even to use a checklist linked to a specific task or a question that they can tick off. Yes, Donatella, students' awareness is really key, and we can start building that right from the very, very beginning. So Cambridge One, the home for digital learning. So Cambridge One is a versatile digital learning platform. So it's designed to enhance teaching and learning, providing a wide range of resources and tools to support your students' progress. For those of you already, maybe some of you here today are already familiar with Cambridge One, you'll be pleased to know that it continues to evolve with even more intuitive features and content tailored to teaching needs. But if you're new to the platform, Cambridge One offers an easy-to-use interface where you can access all your resources, and which helps you to engage your students in a dynamic and interactive way. So this means what's special about it, as I mentioned, it's all in one place. So everything you have is accessed in one place, all of the teaching and learning materials, and across multiple devices, so you can access it from phones, smartphones, tablets, computers. It's age appropriate, so it's designed for children and for teens and adults, depending on the age of the learners. So always thinking about making sure that the students feel motivated and also challenged at the right level. And of course, it is data you can trust. So this means that it's meaningful, relevant, and actionable data. So it includes also elements of gamification to guide us and also to keep those learners motivated, which is so important. So I'm just going to show you a quick overview for Cambridge One. Thank you, Arzu. She just put the link to access the homepage in the chat. It's really easy to register. You can log in using Facebook, Google, or Apple accounts. And if you need any support, the help button is always there on the screen to support, to answer and support you. You can also register with email. So once you're in Cambridge One, there are three main sections which are clearly labelled at the top, where you can access your classes, your library, and my training. So you can see those three tabs at the top. So what you do is look for the course material. So in this case, it would be Guess What in the course material. And then once you've activated your materials, you can then bookmark them. So you have, when you enter Cambridge One, you have easy access to your courses, so easy access to Guess What. In Cambridge One, as I've already mentioned, you have access to all of the teaching and learning material for Guess What, from the classroom presentation and management tool, which includes all of the songs, animated stories, digital flashcards, and much more. You've also got access to interactive practice per unit for the students. You've also got access to test generator, where you can create your own assessments, and of course the teacher resources. And in these teacher resources, where you can download all of the audios, videos, extra support worksheets, flashcards, and much more. If we click onto my training, you can see that or in the training tab, you can find the self-study modules, which are designed to help you learn and get the most out of C1, out of Cambridge One. And then you also have teaching with different courses. So we've also got a getting started with Guess What. This training module is really designed to help you even look at Guess What and learn about it in a lot more detail. So if you can see here, this is just a screenshot from the course. This self-study course takes you through in detail all of the components, the print components and the digital components and the course methodology. So you know exactly how you can bring all together digital paper components and bring it into your classroom. Also, you'll find in my training tab, we have a professional development section of development courses. These are self-study modules, which you can find from classroom management to teaching communicatively or lesson planning for young learners. It's just a few. So that's looking at the Cambridge One and all of the teaching and learning resources that you have available to you. And now we're thinking about the start of the language learning journey. So although today we're focusing on learning materials, children are also at this stage starting their learning journey. So a big part of that, of course, is also assessment. So let's just have a quick look at what we've got for you in terms of assessment. The exams, the Cambridge English Pre-A1 starters, A1 movers and A2 flyers cover all 4 language skills: reading, writing, listening and speaking. This has a positive impact on teaching and learning, as it really makes sure that we're practicing all of the skills in the content in our lessons, including communicative activities. And then our learners can develop the skills they need to use English effectively in the real world. And some research projects that we carried out with teachers, they actually reported saying that they had started introducing even more communicative activities in the class since starting to prepare their students for starters, movers and flyers. You have access to word lists for all of the starters, movers, and flyers. These word lists are a great checklist. So this one is particular for flyers, but we've got them for starters and movers too. It's a great checklist to make sure that we're including all of the core vocabulary from the exams. We've also got posters. Posters are great for discussion. They've got all of the useful language at the bottom, as you can see. And they're great for developing all for not only consolidating vocabulary, but also developing skills, listening, speaking, reading, and writing, and are a great resource that can be exploited in the classroom. We've also got these booklets called for classroom activities for starters, movers, and flyers, which include different activities based on the topics or related to the exams that you can use in your classrooms. And last but definitely not least, if you have young learners in your classes with dyslexia, we have this special booklet. You can access it with the QR code on the screen. And in here, you'll find lots of techniques that will give you a background to what actually dyslexia, what learners with dyslexia, what does that mean? And lots of techniques and strategies that you can implement in the classes to help support these learners. So I was looking at assessment, and another area that is really exciting is sustainability. And we've actually created a sustainability framework here at Cambridge. Just I've got a question for you all. What words, when you think of the word sustainability, what words come to mind? Do you want to just pop that in the chat box? What words come to mind? Well, I have some water. Okay, commitment. Yes, commitment, definitely. Thank you, Donatella. Anybody else? What other words come to mind? Anyone? Commitment. What other words when you think about sustainability? Thank you, Arzu. Anybody else? Exactly, environment. Thank you, Donatella. When I started thinking about sustainability, the first thing that came to my mind it was the environment. But if we think cooperation, oh, thank you, Veronica, citizenship. Yes, exactly. It's much more than just the environment. Yes, it's environmental, which at a simple level for our primary learners could mean something as simple as using both sides of the paper to draw on. But it's also social, Veronica mentioned. So it's also social for our primary learners. That might mean learning to share and cooperate. And it's also economic. So that aspect or the culturally economic aspect, which I think you're never too young to start thinking about the impact of spending at a personal level. So at Cambridge, we took this definition for sustainability. Sustainability encompasses the knowledge, skills, and attitudes we need to ensure a fairer, brighter future for people and the natural world. So you're probably thinking, I'm talking about a sustainability framework, but why bring sustainability into the English language classroom? Why are we talking about it? Well, here are some reasons that we believe at Cambridge that the language classroom is the ideal place to include sustainability education. Young people want to play an active part in shaping the world they live in. A focus on sustainability can help learners engage meaningfully with their English language learning. It can support and provide a practical focus for the development of skills for life, so the ever so important life skills. Also, English is a key language in global sustainability discussions, providing access to information and opportunities. And increasingly, governments and institutions are requiring sustainability to be embedded within the wider curriculum. So at Cambridge, we've developed, as I mentioned, this framework for sustainability skills to help better understand, help teachers better understand the skills learners need. And I know, I know that it's one thing to have this great framework. We have this great framework, but it's another thing to actually how do I incorporate that in the classroom, especially when we have to follow a curriculum and prepare a lesson. So how can that help us in the classroom? Well, we've developed a series of activities, you'll be glad to hear, young learner activity cards that you can use alongside Guess What to introduce, extend, or enhance sustainability related tasks. We've activities for young learners and teenage learners and adults too. So here you've got a few examples just looking at for young learners, so finding connections with and between systems, picture connections, and focus on values, my weekend with nature, transformation, promoting social inclusion, feeling comfortable, and innovation. So these are just a few examples. And Arzu's just also put the link in the chat box, but you can find out more to understand the framework, and you can access all of the resources. You can access the activity cards or from that link. So cambridge.org/sustainability-ELT. So they've got some really great activities that can be included alongside the course. Another what we're hearing a lot about, generative AI. So when you think of generative AI, one word or phrase about how you feel about generative AI. Do you want to pop that in the chat box? So how do you feel when you think about Gen AI? What comes to mind? Potential. Excellent, Donatella. Positive. Yes, potential. Anybody else? Anybody else want to? I mean, maybe some of you feel a little bit like wary. It's something really exciting, new. And what we've done, of course, we thought, okay, what can we do at Cambridge to help teachers and support teachers with this? Well, we've created a whole pack of ideas that you can create out. Inspiration. Thank you, Rafaela. It's great. Some positive words, definitely, because support, I think we have to look at it from a positive, exciting way. And it's something completely new that we need to learn how we can use it to best support us, as you've mentioned, Laura. So here we've created these activity cards. Here are just some examples. So this resource is really designed to help you become more confident when using generative AI tools in your teaching practice. Okay. So that's all of the support that we have for the young learners. So do have a look at the links that we've shared with you in the chat. And now let's start looking at and getting started with Guess What? Oh yeah, Veronica says a bit scared, but also curious. Yeah, no, I think that's probably also understandable, because it's all new, and then we see things and think, oh my gosh, all these things that it can do. But yes, I think it's something that we need to learn, and it can be a great support for us. So let's think about Guess What? Got some other questions, I guess, for you, or sentences. Can you finish these sentences? Primary learners are, and primary learners need. How would you finish it? Primary learners are. Surprising, excitement. Yes, yes. Thank you, Donna. Curious, they definitely are, Irina. Primary learners are curious. Yes. So either they're active and enjoy movements and physical activities. Laura says curious and motivated, definitely. Well, they're also developing basic literacy and numeracy skills. They're still developing their social skills, highly imaginative and enjoy storytelling. So curious, are enthusiastic, buoyant, curious. Yes. And what do they need? What do they need? What do primary learners need? Well, we already mentioned at the beginning when we were thinking about how we can support them, that they need to feel that we care about them, that they need to feel safe and secure in their environment. And in order for them to feel safe and secure, they need consistency, empathy, connection. And I think the consistency there that you mentioned, Carmina, we can provide that through routines and structure in the classroom. Also, they need frequent praise and positive reinforcement. Yeah, like you said, this empathy, this understanding, space to discover. Yes, Irina, space to discover, to be curious. Engaging activities to maintain their attention. I think maybe attention grabbers definitely in the primary classroom is a big must. And self-esteem, exactly. And we can help them build that self-esteem through praise and positive reinforcement. And of course, clear and simple instructions. So they have that consistency, that structure. Donatella says they're always afraid of making mistakes. I tell them they have to, of course, mistakes is part of life. We all make mistakes, and that's how we learn. So yeah, we need to. They need to feel safe in order to make those mistakes. Definitely. So let's take a look at a unit. Guess what? So I'm going to take you through a unit. We're going to be looking specifically at level 2. So of course it's a 6-level primary course. There are 9 units, and each unit is divided into 8 lessons with a specific introduction topic. So every unit begins with a beautiful picture on a double page spread. So it's designed, these pictures are designed to really engage the learners in the topic of the unit, stimulate their imaginations, encourage them to relate to the topic and to the wider world. You will find in the teacher's notes for each of these units suggestions of ways of how you can exploit the photos, the pictures. And this introduction, you can decide what degree you want to exploit it. So you might want to dedicate one lesson to actually focusing in and around this introduction, or just link it to lesson 1. So thinking about these visuals, I've got, let's look at an activity idea to get learners brainstorming ideas around a topic. So here we're looking at pets. So depending on your size of your class, how many learners you have, you could put your class into pairs or groups and give each group a large sheet of paper. Children, you give children in their groups, they write as many pets or animals, because we're thinking about pets here, as they can think of in 1 minute. For example, you give them 1 minute in their groups to write down all of the pets or animals that they can think of. Then after that 1 minute, you ask them to rotate the large sheet of paper to the group on their right. And you continue, so you do the same thing, and you continue rotating the sheet of paper until it returns to the original group. So when you've rotated, you give them another minute, and you ask the next group to look at the words that were written down by the previous group, and if they can add to that. And if you can, it'd be great if each group has 1 color pen. So when they come back, they can see which groups added any extra vocabulary. And also, for you as teachers, you can see which groups added what vocabulary. So this is a way we could use to brainstorm vocabulary linked to the unit topic and the visual. What could we do next? We could maybe just go into the lesson. But there is one thing that we could do, one step that we could do before going straight into the lesson. And that would be, for example, drawing a grid on the board. So we're looking at animals. So we could draw a grid on the board and ask them then to categorize those animals. So which animals can run? Dogs, cats, horses, a mouse. Which animals can swim? Which can fly? So what we're doing here is getting students not only to review and learn new vocabulary, but we're also then asking them to categorize, to put them in the categories. And by asking them to do that, developing critical thinking skills. So they have to think, okay, so what does a dog do? runs, fish swims. So they're actually having to use their critical thinking skills. So that's one idea that can be used to at the beginning of a unit. Okay, so then they have this double spread, a beautiful visual, and then we have lesson one. So lesson one is a presentation of vocabulary. So the new vocabulary is presented in a colorful, as you can see, illustration with the guess what characters. The characters are the same for the levels 1 and 2, and then they change for levels 3 and 4, and then 5 and 6 have other characters. So they'll be introduced to this new vocabulary. As I mentioned, we're looking at level 2. And then the pupils can listen, they can repeat the vocabulary and also read the vocabulary labels on the page. You could also here use the flashcards and the word cards to present and revise new words in a variety of games. And then in lesson 2, they practice the new vocabulary further with an engaging chant. So in lesson 2, they have the chant, which is getting them to practice the vocabulary. This is then followed by an activity which encourages them to use a particular thinking skill. So depending on the lesson, it could be something like spotting differences, working out sequences, finding mistakes. So this is all practicing vocabulary while also recycling language from previous units. Okay, so they will be recycling vocabulary from the previous units as well. And the activity book provides further practice. Okay, so the activity book will provide further practice through recognition activities. It could be also including matching, tracing, and writing. So that's lesson 1. We're really focusing on the vocabulary, and you can always see at the bottom of the page at signposts, okay, these 2 lessons are focusing on in introducing, reviewing, and consolidating, practicing the vocabulary. Then we have lesson 3, and lesson 3, well, we have 2 grammar points in the unit, and they're presented either through a song, lively song, or a short dialogue. And then the pupils are supported through their learning as well with example speech bubbles on the page. And there's also here with these lessons, you've got additional grammar worksheets available in the teacher's resources. Remember when I showed you on Cambridge 1, you can access the teacher resources? Well, in there is where you can find extra support, grammar worksheet if you need with some of your students or all of your students. So there's really a clear progression from this context to active, as you can see at the bottom, active production. They're supported, as mentioned, they're supported by the example speech bubbles on the page. And you also have the extra support in the teacher's resource. And always, as I mentioned, they'll clearly outline what is being what grammar is being taught. So here it's beautiful and is it small, so you can see what is being introduced. So this is a song. Here it's being introduced with a song. Let's have a little think a little bit more about the song. Okay, so here we have, I've shown you, here's one of the verses from the song. I'm going to play you the song, okay? And I'd like you to tell me what words I've covered up, okay? So just listen, and then afterwards I'm going to ask you what words have I covered up. So we're going to have a look at how we can exploit this song a little bit further. Pet shop. Pet shop.
I'm at the pet shop. I'm at the pet shop. Can you guess which is my favorite pet? Is it small? No, it isn't. Is it big? Yes, it is. Is it beautiful? No, it isn't. Is it ugly? Yes, it is. It's big and ugly. Let me guess. Let me guess. Oh, yes. It's a fish. It's a fish.
Okay, so are you listening? What's the first word? Yes, I know it's going to be. My. No, don't. It's small. Is it big? I've just done coming on. And is it? Okay, beautiful. What else? What other words did I cover up? Ugly, big. Oh, thank you. Yes, ugly, big, ugly, fish, and fish. So I just took that verse and I covered up key words. Okay. So what would we do next? What can we do next? So the idea here is then I'd ask the learners, the poor fish, I didn't think the fish was that ugly, but anyway, so you could ask the learners to draw their favorite pet or their favorite animal or their favorite pet, and then in groups they use the structure from the song to guess each other's pet. So all I did here was take that structure, is it, which with the words that I covered up, and asked you to listen and tell me what words I'd covered up. So is it? So we're practicing, we're reinforcing that grammar point that's being taught, and linking it and getting them to practice it a little bit further. Okay, so you can see here that that's the focus, and I've just taken that verse from the song. So I know we all know that we use songs are really, really important, chants and songs. But think about songs, just type in the chat box, how do songs help? So yes, music and rhythm activities are exciting, the kids love them, but they're far more than just fun. How else are they, so how do they support our young learners in learning English? Rhyme, repetition, thank you, Donatella. Yes, structures. What else? So I put here, for example, they help us teach grammar and vocabulary. So the example we just saw now of exploiting that song a little bit further is reinforcing that grammar structure and the vocabulary. Helps us notice the patterns in the language. Yes, they help to memorize vocabulary and grammar. Also, songs link reception to production. Really important to realize that they love the songs, that it links that reception of the language to them actually producing the language. Yeah, we know songs can be repeated and they're still fun. That's great. And songs can also bring in cultural elements into the classroom. And language encountered in songs has a higher chance of retention. And Carmina says they cater for different intelligences as well. And one more thing that we need to mention, they can also help and develop pronunciation. If they read a list of words, they're likely to forget them, but if they sing, well, exactly. It is also, it's one of the, music is one of the first intelligences that we tend to develop. So yeah, so it's good just to remind ourselves that yeah, they're fun and they're great, but it's good for us to really remember why are we using songs in the classroom, and also thinking of ways that we can exploit them as well. So I've got, remember at the beginning, I mentioned Carol Reed's 101 tips for teaching primary children. Well, she's actually got 10 tips for using both songs and chants. Remember, we also have chants in Guess What? The chants are used to consolidate and practice the vocabulary. So I'm going to show you these 10 tips that Carol Reed gives us for using songs and chants. So we could use the flashcards, so the children can point to the flashcards on the classroom walls, or hold up the picture cards when they hear keywords. We could ask for the younger children can hold up finger or pencil puppets and join in when different characters are speaking or singing. Children can do the actions to accompany the song, rhyme, rap, or chant. We can ask them to do the actions. I don't know if you do this, but we can also bring in percussion instruments to keep the rhythm as well. You could conduct, I don't know if any of you did, conduct the class as an orchestra. So they sing or speak loudly when you raise your hands and softly when you lower them. Children can identify rhyming words or supply missing words, so they can vary the patterns of participation. So you could form groups. So the groups take turns to sing or say and act out one verse. So you divide the verbs up between the groups. Children can sing a song as a round. So group A sings the first line of the song, then group B sings the second, and so on. You could use a karaoke version as well. Children can also invent. Why not ask them to invent a dance or actions to go with the song, depending, of course, on what the song's about. They can substitute vocabulary with other words of their choice. And tip number 10 is children can also adapt or create their own versions. So looking at these 10 tips, I'd like you to put in the chat box which tip or tips, so just have a think, which tip or tips would you like to try in your classroom? Or if you're doing 8, okay, so Donatella says 8, using karaoke version or invent a dance. Okay, thank you, Donatella. Anybody else? So Carmina, 9, yeah, they can substitute the vocabulary for their choice. They also express culture, exactly, Veronica, definitely, yes. So, I mean, here we've got 10 tips. The actions, Raphael says the actions. Actions are really, really powerful as well, bringing in that TPR into the classroom. So you could get them to include that movement, and we know how much children also like to move, and it helps. So here you've got 10 tips that maybe later on you think, oh, I'd like to try another tip there. Okay, so we know that lesson 3 and 4 is focusing on the grammar point. Remember, 1 and 2 vocabulary, 3 and 4 grammar, and yes, as well, the activity book provides a variety of activities and puzzles to consolidate the target grammar. And also, just to remind you as well, you have the additional grammar worksheets in the teacher's resource. So now we come to lessons 5 and 6. So lesson 5 is the story and value. This is where they read and listen to the story. So this is where, with the story, the pupils are consolidating and extending their learning further, all right, with the guess what characters. So it comes after the vocabulary, after the grammar, and this is where it's consolidating and putting it into context. So let's just have a look at the story. Have a look at the story, have a read of the story, and if you were already paying attention, can you guess what the final picture is? How does the story end? Oh, thank you, Donatella. I just saw what you wrote there for the tips. They're all super great. Thank you. So what happens at the end of this story? Anybody? They help finding the cat. Yes, exactly. So the cat's going to be rescued. Yes, of course. So here you have, they rescued the cat, and they have a little bot that helps them. So thinking about the stories in Guess What, as I mentioned, the story is linked to values, and they consolidate all the language from the unit and recycle language from previous units. As you can say here, this is taken from the teacher's book, as I said, consolidates the language and also recycles language from previous units. So when working with the story, the first time always focuses on understanding the story, leading into listening, reading again to explore the value which drives the narrative. So the first time is always to understand, and the second time is to explore the values of the narrative. So in the teacher's book, it provides here detailed step-by-step teacher's notes that you can exploit, giving you ways to exploit the stories further in class. As you can see, there is also here, it's an extension activity where the students get to actually role play and pretend to be the characters, which generally children love to do that. And if you can give them props and everything, the story could be, the story could be a script to have the, exactly. Well, here the extension activity is getting them to role play from a particular frame, but you could get them to role play the whole story. And so these extension activities in the teacher's book, do look at them, do read them, because they are a fantastic opportunity to get the students to consolidate, to practice that language, and to hear and be involved with the story multiple times. And it really is great for consolidating all the language. So then lesson 6, they then practice a functional dialogue, first introduced in the story and then applied into lesson 6. So the functional language is introduced in the story, and then it's applied in the real world context. Sorry. And the pupils will also focus on practicing, as you can see here, a specific English sound. It's normally it's with a funny sentence about an animal. So here we have a fox with a fish and a vulture with vegetables. And also you'll find that the activity book also provides further practice on both the language and the sounds as well. So just having think about, you know, a key point. I think it's really important to remind ourselves a key point for chants, songs, and stories. And we've already looked at okay, yes, songs are fun, but we've also reminded ourselves how they help in our learners to acquire language. But songs and stories, the critical point is repetition, 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 repetition. I think we must never be afraid to listen to or watch a story again. Have children, as Donatella, I think as you mentioned, act out their favorite story from 2 units ago, or sing a song from 3 units ago. And I think sometimes maybe we might think that, okay, if we're repeating it again, we might think, okay, no, this is too boring for the children. But we need to remember that children love repeating the songs that they enjoy, of course, and the stories that they love. So thinking about guess what as well, it's good to revisit the chants, songs, and stories. And remember, for very young learners, we can turn the pages forwards and backwards. So I think it's really, really good for us to bear this in mind. And also movement essential to learning, definitely Donatella. It's all within the chants, the songs, and the stories. As I mentioned, look in the teacher's notes, because you will have those extension activities linked to the stories, which gives you ideas how you can include that movement as well. And we've looked at the top tips as well from Carol Reed to also include some of that movement with the songs and the chants. So then we come to lesson 7, and lesson 7 is the CLIL, the Content and Language Integrated Learning. So where they explore a fascinating topic selected from primary school and subjects across the curriculum. So they are also have an introductory photo. There's also a really, really good video, dynamic video that you can access via the Presentation Plus, the front of class presentation tool, which you access via Cambridge One. And you've got instructions and how you can carry out these videos in the class with the students. And you also have in the activity book further consolidation activities linked to the CLIL page as well. And lesson 8, you have there the project. So when you look at the material, you'll see with lesson 8, with the CLIL pages at the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see the project, and the project is there. They can work together. It's a simple project linked to the CLIL topic. And then you'll find when they've completed a whole unit, the evaluation for the unit is in the activity book, okay? And then there's a review every 2 units where they have more opportunity to consolidate vocabulary in the language. There's puzzles, task-based listening too. So this is the structure of the Guess What units. And the structure follows the same from level 1 to level 6, of course, just increasing in difficulty. You've got the double page spread, which is the introduction to the unit, which you can exploit as a whole lesson, or just use it as an introduction to lesson 1, which is a presentation of the vocabulary. So lesson 1 and 2, presentation and practice of the vocabulary. Lesson 3 and 4 is focused on the grammar. And then lessons 5 is story and value. Lesson 6 is talk time, which is linking, giving the students, the pupils, the opportunity to put into practice the functional language that they've also seen in the story. And you have the a focus on the ever so important sounds. Yeah. Then you have lesson 7, which is focused on CLIL. Lesson 8, you've got a project at the end. And every 2 units, you've got review lessons. So looking at that as an overview of the unit, depending, of course, on how many learners you have in class and how big your class is, or how long your classes are, you could pick and choose from lesson 7 and 8. So the CLIL pages and the project, you can pick and choose them. If you find that, oh, you haven't got enough time to do it all, then those areas you could those pages, those lessons, you could decide on which ones you'd want to do, or you could always come back and do them later. Yeah. So does anybody, please, if you have any questions at all, do pop them into the chat box. I'm just going to have another look. I want to show you a little bit about the teacher's book. What other support we have for you in the teacher's book. As we mentioned at the beginning, you've got the teacher's notes, which support how you can exploit these the introduction to the units with these images. But you'll also see in the teacher's book, the pupil's book is interleaved, so you can see a page of the pupil's book and the teacher's notes next to it. Every lesson, it clearly outlines the lesson aims, clearly outlines the new language and the recycled language and the materials that you need for that lesson. You'll have ideas for warmers, ideas for ending the lesson. How many levels? There's 6 levels. 6, Donatella. Goes up to A2+. 6 goes A2+. And you'll also find in the teacher's book, even there are extra activities as well. So within the lessons, you'll see you can have ideas for extra activities if you have time permitting. You'll also find in the beginning, you're welcome, at the beginning of the teacher's book, you'll find a whole page dedicated to the content and language and integrated learning, which is lesson 7. You'll also find a timetable fit. So this is nice. It'll look at how, with suggestions on how you can program the content of the units, depending on your specific timetabling. And of course, there is a games bank. So the games bank is designed to be used as a dip-in resource. Yeah, so have a look at the games. Maybe you want to use one of them as a warmer to a lesson, or you want to use them to end a lesson, or in the middle between two activities. So the games bank is there. It's designed to be dipped into. So that's looking at guess what? And I want to share one quote as we come to the end of today's webinar. I want to share this one quote with you. Difficulties arise when we try to use textbooks exactly as they are without thinking about the needs, skills and circumstances of the particular set of students sitting in front of us. So I think you'll agree with me. Every classroom, every group of students is a completely different world. And the course book, guess what, is an invaluable tool which will guide and support us. And if we get to know the material inside and out, then we will be able to be flexible and adapt the course book to meet the specific needs and interests of our students. And of course, I want to finish off with 4 tips for managing the classroom. So we've looked at all of these wonderful resources, all of these resources that are out there. But if we can't manage our classroom, we won't be able to really get the most out of our material. So classroom management really is the background for effective primary teaching, effective teaching. If you're not able yeah, if we can't manage our class, then nothing seems to go right. And I think we've all had that experience. So we want to create that happy, relaxed working atmosphere that our children feel secure and supported. So I've got these 4 tips here, and I've taken keywords out. Don't give them all at once. Give them one by one. So what's the first one? I've taken the vowels out. So what's the first one? Yes, Carmina's in there with organization. Exactly. Classroom management is to do with organizing all aspects of the learning environment. If we think the more we plan, prepare, and the more we organize things in advance, the easier it becomes. So what does it mean when we're organizing our classroom? It's the classroom setup. How are we going to set up the classroom? We're thinking about our timing as well. How are we going to be timing the activities, our records, activities, and I think most importantly, ourselves. Yeah, I think we need to also be really organized ourselves, and then it will help us organize our classroom. Yes, Donatella's in there. Don't worry, Carmina. I know sometimes the caps locked. I know you have a positive approach. Yes, exactly. So we need to use, what do I mean by positive approach? So we need to use a model of influence rather than a model of control, and actively plan ways to improve our classroom management. I think you'll all agree with me that we can't control children's behavior. The only behavior we can control is our own. So in order to positively influence children's behavior, we need to really look at our own first. So it's this idea of always leading by example. And I think you all saw the third tip that I accidentally, yes, praise. So praise, use praise with care. So what do I mean by that? Praise, develop children's self-esteem. Yes, it is really powerful. And it also helps us to manage behavior, but we have to use it carefully and in age appropriate ways. Yeah, so we mustn't go over praise. It was really, as you mentioned, Donatella, it is powerful, and being aware how powerful that is. And the last word is manage behavior strategically. Strategically. Exactly. So it can be really challenging. I think you agree with some days it can be really challenging to responding to children's behavior. So it can really help if we try to prepare strategies in advance of the classes. So think about, maybe how we would respond in certain circumstances. So try to think about that beforehand. So I hope these 4 tips are things, just to remind ourselves how important it is for managing the young learner classroom. And just to finish, to remind you, or if you are using Guess What, do please visit the self-study module for Guess What that you can find on Cambridge One in the My Training tab. It's a great support for you there too. And just as we finish, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat box. In the meantime, we have a poll that we'd like you to answer. So if you could answer this poll, it would be wonderful to see. We really hope that you found this webinar useful. And if you have any questions, please just pop them in the chat box. And then if not, we go, don't forget that this is only the 3rd day. We've also got other sessions focusing on other courses for teenagers and exams as well. So thank you. And Arzu's just popped that all into the chat box. Oh, thank you, Donatella. Thank you. I love tongue twisters. Any suggestions? Veronica, you know what you can use? Ask ChatGPT to create tongue twisters for you, for your specific students. So you could give the prompt in ChatGPT, give me 5 tongue twisters that I can use in the pre-primary, in the primary classroom, or specify the age of the students and their L1. Yeah, so what is their L1? And it'll give you great tongue twisters. So yeah, Generative AI, it's excellent. Is it adapted to tutoring classes? I'm not quite sure I understand your question, Muriel. Is it adapted to, I'm sorry, I don't understand the question. To tutoring classes, to, apologies. If you could give me a little bit more context. Thank you, Rafaela. Thank you, Leocadia. Okay, Veronica, yes, do also, and not just for that, ChatGPT, and also you'll see with the generative AI activity cards, take a look at them, because they also, what's so important when we're thinking about using ChatGPT or another tool, is the prompts that we give them. So the more we use them and we can see what they give us back, it's a fantastic resource. For individual students, private classes. I mean, you can adapt it. You'd need to adapt it a little bit, because of course there's like, for example, we looked at the extension activities, this was getting them to be in role play. So individual students, you're going to have to be that you'll always will be you and that one student. So you as a teacher could definitely adapt it, but yeah, you'll see a lot of, in the teachers note, work in groups, work in pairs. So that's when you'll need to think a little bit of how you would adapt the material for that one-to-one class. So yeah, don't understand. I think so, yeah. Private classes, actually, yes. I mean, of course you can use it for one-to-one class. You'll just need to adapt it a little bit for you and that one student. Yes, of course. And don't forget that all of these stories they're all animated as well. I mean, we were just looking at from the print component, but you have all of those stories are also animated on Cambridge One, so they can see the story in that same different medium. Yeah. Okay. So I hope you have a lovely rest of the day. Yeah, and as I said, thank you for coming. Have a lovely evening. And yeah, we hope to see you in some of our other sessions. Okay, so the ball. Thanks, Donatella. Have a great afternoon.